Hi everyone! In this video, we will talk about graphing vertical and horizontal lines. Graph the equation by plotting points. Y equals -7/2. When graphing lines by plotting points, we find points that we would like to use as the input so that we can solve and find the output. To do such, we start with a t-chart and we input the x's, which is the input, and then we find the y's, which is the output. Choosing some of my favorite x's, I always choose 0 because it's one of my favorites, and then we can choose a negative number like -2 and a positive number like +3. And then we will put those into the equation and solve for y. You'll notice that we don't actually have an x in our equation. This means that it doesn't matter what I substitute in for the x, the y will always remain -7/2. So in this case, we didn't need to do any calculations at all. We know that the y will always be -7/2 no matter what we pick for the input. So let's go ahead and graph these. To do so, we'll go ahead and make our unit mark using 2 of the lines in the graph. The reason we're doing this is that we have -7/2 to be where our line goes. And so we'll be graphing in a half position, which means that if we make our units 2 squares or 2 of these units long, that within in the middle of those will be the half. So this would be 1, and this is +1/2. This will be 1 1/2. This will be 2, 2 1/2, and so forth. Let's go ahead and find where we will graph our line. For our first point, -2 and -7/2, this means we start at the origin and we move 2 units to the left for the x input, 1, 2, and then we need to go down to -7/2. If you're not familiar with changing this from an improper fraction to a mixed number, we'll take our 7 and divide it by 2. 2 goes into 7 3 times. 3 times 2 is 6. Subtract gives us 1, so we get 3 1/2. So -7/2 is the same as -3 1/2, and that'll be helpful when we move down in our graph. So we're going to go down 1, 2, 3, and right here is a half because it's in between the number -3 and -4, and so this is where our first point will be. Our second point is at 0 and -7/2, so we'll start at the origin 0, and we'll go down -1, 2, 3 1/2 here, and again at 3 and -7/2, so we'll go over from the origin, starting here, 1, 2, 3, and down 1, 2, 3 1/2. And you'll notice that we end up with a horizontal line, horizontal like the horizon, so that it's going flat across this way. And so whenever we have a line that has the equation with just y equals a number, we end up with a horizontal line at that number. And now we're all done.